The Zarn Dominion had never known failure. For over 1,000 cycles, their war engines had crushed resistance in every sector they entered. Their doctrine was elegant in its brutality. Strike first, strike hard, erase any threat before it could think to resist. General Krozek, Supreme Commander of the Eastern Expansion Armada, stood as a symbol of that ruthless success. He was not born into nobility. He rose through the ranks on merit, on blood, on cold, clinical efficiency. His campaigns against the Corwin Rebellion, the Deskin strongholds, and the Whispering Line of Several were required study in military academies. His voice brought silence. His gaze instilled fear. His orders were obeyed without hesitation. And so, when scouts brought him reports of an isolated Terran outpost nestled on the edge of the Onthar Vale, tiny, lightly armed, manned by a mere handful of human personnel, he did not hesitate. It would be a message, a reminder to these unpredictable Deathworlders that their minor alliance with the Concord did not make them untouchable. The humans had begun expanding too rapidly. They were too curious, too fast, too resistant to the old models of conquest. Krozek decided to strike before their roots grew deeper. He reviewed the data personally. 1 outpost, minimal defenses, 5 humans, located on a frozen moon designated RX-9. Krozek saw no fortifications, no significant energy signatures beyond life support and short-range communications, no planetary defense grid, no local fleet protection. A message had been sent by their command about the outpost's insignificance. A passive listening post, rotated every 6 months. Even their own species seemed to find it unimportant. Krozek approved the strike. A 3-vessel detachment from his forward fleet would be enough. He would arrive in person, deliver a brief speech to the outpost commander, and raise it before broadcasting a carefully edited version of the encounter across neutral systems. It would be fast. It would be surgical. It would be final. But one of his aides hesitated. "General," said Commander Tyvak, hesitating before continuing. "These humans, the last campaign near the Baretsi Cliffs." Krozek raised one clawed finger and silenced him. "The humans, there were soldiers. These are analysts and technicians. They are not warriors. They are not a threat." Tyvak nodded and stepped back. No one argued with Krozek twice. They warped in at precisely 0432 local time. The icy surface of RX. 9 spun slowly beneath them, white and silent. Krozek's warships positioned in geosynchronous orbit, cloaked to prevent early detection. He gave the standard ultimatum across all known Terran hailing frequencies. "This is General Krozek of the Zarn Dominion. You are in violation of territorial claims and subject to immediate annexation. Identify your command representative and prepare for surrender." There was a long silence. Then came the human reply. A male voice relaxed with a slight Terran Eastern accent. "Hey, thanks for the warning. Real polite. What exactly are we surrendering, though? You want our coffee machine or the data logs on space whale migrations?" Krozek narrowed his eyes. This was not the fear-struck groveling he expected. "You will identify yourself immediately," he commanded. "Oh, sure. Sergeant Ivan Cole, Engineering Lead. Welcome to RX-9, where our top export is boredom and frostbite. You picked the short straw, or just like cold rocks." Krozek cut the transmission. Mockery. It was beneath response. "Prepare the landing teams," he ordered. "Disable their systems. Jam all outgoing signals. I want him silenced." Within 10 minutes, 2 squads of armored troopers were dispatched to the surface. They encountered nothing. No resistance. No automated defenses. The outpost's landing beacon lit green, as if inviting them in. But as the first squad approached the airlock, it exploded. A non-lethal blast, precisely calibrated to rupture atmospheric seals and scatter electronics. The second squad barely had time to register the ambush before their suit HUDs flickered with static. Drones scrambled to assist, only to be rerouted mid-air, crashing into each other or turning back on their own controllers. From orbit, Krozek watched in disbelief. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Unknown interference, General." The comms officer stammered. Our signals are being hijacked. No, overwritten. By low-bandwidth code injections. They're using our own protocols against us. Krozek stared at the screen. A human voice crackled through once more. Hey, General, just a quick note. Might want to update your firmware. Looks like your encryption keys are a bit vintage. The line cut. Krozek's claws dug into the arm of his command chair. This was no ordinary technician. He reviewed the data again. Ivan Cole, Sergeant, service record redacted under Terran Special Operations, attached to multiple Black Ops units. Reassigned RX 4 months ago after a disciplinary action. No clear reason given. Krozek's expression darkened. He had underestimated this man, and Ivan knew it. Below, Ivan worked quickly. He moved like someone who'd been here before, not to this moon, but this situation. Outnumbered, outgunned, alone, but not helpless. Never helpless. He'd spent 2 months retrofitting the outpost, not because of orders, but because of a gnawing instinct. Humans didn't get outposts like this for no reason. This place wasn't strategic. It wasn't important. But the fact that it existed meant someone thought it might become important. And someone wanted someone else to believe it wasn't. So Ivan treated it like a kill box from day one. The sensor array was rerouted to act as a passive EM scatter system. The satellite uplinks weren't just for relaying data. They now formed an improvised defense grid capable of disorienting any ship that got too close. And the maintenance drones? Armed with crude but effective countermeasures. Thermal spikes, high-intensity microwaves, and a nasty little surprise he'd built from salvaged mining charges. He was alone now. The rest of the outpost had been evacuated weeks ago. Officially, it was a personnel rotation. Unofficially, someone had trusted Ivan with whatever might come, and it had come faster than expected. The Zarn were good, efficient, predictable, which made them exploitable. He didn't need to beat them in a firefight. He needed to bleed their time, their confidence, their reputation. And Krozek had just handed him the perfect stage. Back in orbit, Krozek's frustration evolved into obsession. He ordered a precision strike, no orbital bombardment, just target kinetic rods to take out infrastructure. But as the weapons deployed, the targeting system failed. Sir, the rods veered off course. Impacted 50 kilometers from the outpost. How? Krozek growled. The trajectory was recalculated mid-deployment. We believe the guidance signals were spoofed. General Krozek had known many battles, many adversaries, and countless so-called heroes who had tried and failed to stand against the Zarn Dominion. But nothing in his experience matched the infuriating, elusive, and calculated defiance of Sergeant Ivan Cole. It wasn't the scale of the resistance. It was the precision. The human was bleeding Krozek's pride in microscopic cuts. Not a soldier in sight, yet Krozek's elite strike teams returned injured, disabled, or not at all. Worse, the Dominion's internal channels were already buzzing with whispers that the general had walked into a trap set by a single Terran. He descended onto RX 9 Persily, flanked by 6 honor guards in reinforced suits. Their landing zone was selected for its proximity to the outpost's primary structure. The moment they exited the lander, their environmental suits picked up irregular power readings, faint but deliberate. Krozek ordered full tactical scans. Nothing overt, just faint power fluctuations, as if the systems were designed to be seen, but never touched. They advanced cautiously. Krozek took each step like it mattered. The ground crunched beneath them, but there was no resistance, no defense, just silence and shadows. Inside the facility, Ivan Cole watched the telemetry updates. The general had landed, and that meant the endgame could begin. The fight was no longer physical. It had become something colder, sharper, psychological attrition. Every room Krozek entered was calibrated to disorient. Every automated system, down to the flicker of the corridor lights, was running a delay pattern designed to increase cognitive fatigue. Time would slow for them. Subtly, lights would dim when they focused. Sounds would distort slightly when they spoke. It wasn't sabotage. It was sensory warfare. Krozek pushed forward, ignoring his discomfort. He passed through corridors that looked unused, but were swept clean. He saw signs of habitation, but no inhabitants. Each door they passed opened precisely 0.7 seconds late. Each console flickered once before working. Nothing broke, but nothing felt right. Then the messages began. On the wall of the primary lab, scratched in black carbon, "You're predictable." On a console terminal, blinking gently, "You lost before you landed." On the ceiling above a sealed bulkhead, "This is not your war anymore." Krozek snarled, slashing the last message with his talon. "Find him," he ordered. "He's here. He's watching us." But Ivan wasn't watching. Not directly. The surveillance systems were rerouted, not to feed him visuals, but to calculate Zarn movement patterns. He'd studied their species' body language, their tactical logic, their energy expenditure habits. Krozek would go where he wanted him to go. And Krozek, despite his rage, followed the path. He reached the outpost central command node. A hologram sparked to life unprompted. Ivan's image appeared, not live but recorded. Relaxed posture, arms folded. "If you're seeing this, you've made it to the nerve center. Congrats." Most people trip over the microwave traps or the high-pressure oxygen leaks. But not you. No, you got that Dominion spine, don't you? Unbending. Until it snaps. The recording paused, and another voice took over. A synthetic narration, spliced from Krozek's own military debriefs. "This sector is to be subjugated without resistance. Enemy forces are expected to collapse on first contact. Standard procedure will suffice." Krozek recognized the words. They were his own, from a classified file. They had been turned into mockery. Ivan's voice returned. "Funny thing about standard procedures. They assume the enemy's playing the same game. But I'm not in your rule book. I'm not a footnote in your conquest timeline. I'm the error message you can't delete." One of Krozek's guards moved to destroy the projector. It exploded in a flash of light, releasing a directed burst of sonic pressure. The guard dropped instantly incapacitated. "Stop touching things," the voice whispered through the overhead speakers. Krozek barked an order to seal off the room. He demanded a full lockdown of the AI core. But his command net returned a message he never expected. Access denied. User permissions revoked. "You think this scares me," he growled. From a hidden vent, a gas began to flow, non-toxic, odorless, but laced with a neurostimulant engineered to spike anxiety and aggression in Zarn biochemistry. Ivan didn't need to kill them. He needed them unstable. Meanwhile, in an auxiliary maintenance bay a kilometer away, Ivan remained perfectly calm. He wasn't running. He was orchestrating. Every trap Krozek encountered was part of a calculated map of behavioral pressure. Time, movement, and psychology were his weapons now. He remembered his training. He remembered the briefings about the Zarn and their hierarchy. Their generals didn't lose. Not because they couldn't, but because their command culture didn't allow for retreat. It wasn't victory that drove them. It was the absolute avoidance of shame. So Ivan gave them nothing to hit and everything to question. Krozek began lashing out his own men. His orders contradicted. His paranoia grew. Every screen flickered with another message. Your certainty is your leash. The Dominion fears chaos. I am chaos. How does it feel to chase a ghost? Then came the reprogrammed training simulations. Krozek's own soldiers began triggering VR overlays in their HUDs. Flashbacks of old battles. Simulations from their academy days. Enemies long dead. The overlays were subtle, introduced via hijacked targeting data. Some soldiers fired at shadows. Others froze as they relived defeats they'd never shared. Krozek's unit fractured into disarray. Half wanted to retreat. The other half couldn't tell what was real anymore. Krozek had to act. He isolated himself from his men and ordered a hard reboot of the lander's onboard systems. He would extract, level the facility, and report a tactical anomaly. But as he approached the lander, he saw it. The hull had been etched with a message in Terran standard font, scorched into the metal. No extraction. No escape. Finish what you started. The systems on board the lander were functional, but they had been set to loop false diagnostics. The engine showed 100% readiness, but every ignition cycle failed. Ivan had sabotaged not the engine, but the ignition algorithm, a flaw undetectable by non-human AI. The lander would never fly. Back inside the outpost, Krozek initiated a last-ditch plan. Upload a self-learning worm into the outpost core to root out Ivan's code and take back control. That was exactly what Ivan wanted. The worm activated a buried subroutine in the system's backup core, an old human-developed wargame AI nicknamed Cerberus. Designed for information warfare, it didn't defend systems. It corrupted attackers. Krozek's worm became a beacon, spreading Ivan's control further into the Zarn tactical net. Now, he had their fleet data. Ivan grinned. In orbit, the Zarn command ships began to notice strange behavior. Weapon systems refused to lock. Communications rerouted through strange languages. Navigation drifted by fractions of degrees. Nothing catastrophic, but everything uncertain. Doubt festered. Rumors that the general was trapped, that the enemy was a human AI, that the facility was a Terran experiment in anti-command warfare. Fear took root where orders once lived.